Hello, people. Today I'm going to talk to you about a couple things. I'm going to talk to you about Sammy Gravano's 302's, and also Sammy's been caught in another lie on his live show. His live show is the gift that keeps on giving to people like myself who have these shows, people like myself that like to point out lies, consistent lies that Sammy Gravano makes all the time. And today we're going to show you a couple things, and then you guys can make your decision. But I'm also going to give you guys a place to go to find Sammy's 302's and to read them yourself. You don't need me here telling you what a liar he is. All you have to do is go read the 302's to understand how much of this is fiction going on with Sammy. He puts himself pretty much in the picture everywhere. He wants to be the guy. But let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about the hit that was on Frankie DeCicco. He was blown up in a car. And we all know that. You know, besides the hit on Castellano, it was one of the bigger hits. And this happened in this shortly after the December 16th, 1985 killing of Paul Castellano. And I want to explain this to you real quick. Most people that are knowledgeable of the mob know the basics. There's been a lot of theories made on why Frankie DeCicco was killed. But we're going to give the one that's probably 99% true. So it was an unsanctioned hit. And after the hit was done, Vinny the Chin and Tony Ducks Corallo, Anthony Tony Ducks, were furious because it was an unsanctioned hit. And they wanted revenge. They wanted revenge on John Gotti. They wanted revenge on Frankie DeCicco. So what they did is they put it together. They went to Anthony Casso, they went to, and of the Lucchese family, Vic Amuso of the Lucchese family, and they wanted them to commit the murder. And so what they had to do is they had to come up with a way to commit the murder and try to blame it on other people. They didn't want to make it look like that they were doing it, because then they knew it was going to start an all-out war. And this is Paul Castellano right here. And everybody knows who he is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to explain to you one thing. So Victor Amuso and Anthony Casso were ordered to kill Frankie DeCicco. So what they wanted to do, they wanted to make it look like the Sicilians were doing it, because in this country, the mob outlawed, basically the families got together and said, no bombing, no killing people with bombs. So what they did is they went out and got a guy named Herbie Pate. He was an associate in the Genovese family. And he was a bomb expert. And what he did is he put a bomb underneath the car and he detonated it when Frankie DeCicco was getting in the car. And they wanted to make it look the Sicilians, but they did a very poor job of it. But now we have a bunch of people saying they were there. We know certain people were there at the scene. We know Frankie DeCicco was definitely there because he died. We know that Sammy Gravano gives his version, but you really can't believe too much of what Sammy Gravano says, because he keeps being proven as a liar in his live show. And usually it's by Mikey Scars, because Mikey Scars was around at the same time. To give you an idea who DeCicco was, Frankie DeCicco, his father was Vincent Boozy DeCicco. He was a Gambino soldier. He passed away in like 1979, and they called him Boozy because he was an alcoholic, severe alcoholic. So when he passed away in 79, DeCicco was in the Gambino family at that time, and he was a very powerful part of it. He was associated with Paul Castellano, and until the hit came up, he was always with Castellano, and he was a big reason that it happened. Matter of fact, when Castellano was killed, he's the one that set it up. He got a hold of Gotti, and he told Gotti, look, he's going to be at Stark's Steakhouse, and he gave him the exact time when he was going to be there. And then everybody knows it's history. They set it up, and they killed him. But here's what Sammy's saying now. Sammy is saying that he when Frankie DeCicco was blown up, that he went over and pulled the body out of the car, and he could feel his hand go through the part of the body. And that's not what happened, people. Sammy Gravano never pulled Frankie DeCicco's body from the car. And here's some evidence. I want you to listen to this. This was made by Kane Shade. And Kane Shade, I'm going to have his link under here. You can go to it. But me and him were discussing this. He put it together. He did a great job. He's trying to get to 2,000 subs. So please, people, go over there and give him your sub. But I want to play this for you so you can understand exactly why, once again, Sammy Gravano has been caught in a lie. Okay, let's play this.
Thing, there was this huge explosion that rocked the whole neighborhood. Windows broke. I never even heard an explosion like that. I came out of the club, so did at least 20, 30 guys. I went to grab him, to pull him away from the car. As I pulled him a little bit, one of his legs seemed to be detached. Same thing with one of his arms. When I went under him, there was no part of his body left. My hand went right through almost the outside part of his stomach. So my hand was actually in his body. And that started us thinking about, where could this have come from? Picking him up, a lifelong friend of mine, was sickening how I saw him dead. It's not like he was shot. It's not like things that we were used to. He was completely blown away.
Also in Bensonhurst, a police officer had carried DeCicco's body from this car. Friends and family of Frank DeCicco carry his body from the Carpacci funeral home. Sunday afternoon, also in Bensonhurst, a police officer had carried DeCicco's body from this car. DeCicco, second in command of the Gambino organized crime family, had opened the passenger door. A bomb under the front seat. A police officer had carried DeCicco's body from this car. Hurst, a police officer had carried DeCicco's body from this car. Hurst, a police officer had carried DeCicco's body from this car.
Okay, people, I wanted you to hear that. When all the news reports first came out, they said it was a police officer that removed the body from the car. And this was on several channels, several stations. It was in, this is something that was added on by Sammy Gravano as Sammy Gravano came to age on YouTube. And this is what he does. So I think that's proof right there. Maybe people don't believe the media. Maybe they believe Sammy. If that's going to be the case, we're going to go to another part of showing why Sammy lies a lot and what the evidence is and what the proof is, people. Now, there's a wonderful site, and I'm going to put this underneath here, so the link, and I want you guys to go read it because it's got some really interesting stuff. And let me pull this up. Okay, it's from the Smoking Gun, and it's called Sammy the Bull Gravano's Tawdry Tales. And if you go underneath this, and people, the link will be under here. Do yourself a favor. If you don't trust or believe Sammy Gravano, go to this site and you could read about each 302 and what he told the FBI. I'll give you an example. Let's pull up some people here. First of all, I'll give you, let's start with his good friend, Louis Melito. Okay. There's something here about Louis Melito. There's a 302 on him. And it's pretty damning towards Sammy, because Sammy says that he was Louis Melito's best friend. And they were really good friends. But he had no problem, and let's put this up here. Now, see, this is right here. It says cooperating witness. It basically says advised that Louis Melito was killed by members of the Gambinos. He goes into Louis Melito's death, And what you got to understand is that this was a friend of Sammy Gravano's. It talks about how he was murdered, how they disposed of the body. It goes right all the way through it, people. And how they chopped him up and he disappeared. And this is a friend of his. And then we're going to go to another friend of his. Sammy treats his friends very good. We're going to go to Robert DiBernardo, or DB, better known as DB. And when John Gotti was in jail, it was decided that Robert DiBernardo was going to be killed. And guess who took over his businesses along with Louis Melito's? It was Sammy Gravano. But I want you to see this. I'm going to put this up here. Let me take this down first. And then we're going to go over here. And we're going to go to, let's see. So we're going to go to Robert DiBernardo's. And on here, you can see the 302. So people, I'm going to tell you, this is really good stuff. This is Robert DiBernardo right here. We're going to pull it up. And that tells about the whole killing of Robert DiBernardo. And just like what Sammy was at Louis Melito, who got shot in the head, same thing happened to his good friend, Robert DiBernardo. And both times, these killings were done with complaints from Sammy. Complaints asking John Gotti to approve the DB murder. As we know, we hear John Gotti talking about it on one of the Ravenite tapes. And this is also in here. This is a 302, people. You know, this is what's great about these things, because you can read them and then you can see what Sammy says. You can go to Sammy's section, pull up his library, and read what he says about everything. And I'm going to tell you what, a lot of times you're going to notice his 302s are nothing like what he puts up in videos. Nothing. And I think it's like, instead of believing Sammy Gravano, who has proven that he lies over and over again in his videos, and he's been caught in so many lies recently on his lives, that he deserves to be checked out. So I would tell people to please go to this site. It's at the Smoking Gun, and you could even Google it. You could put Smoking Gun, Sammy Gravano's 302. Google it, you'll pull it up, and it's right there. And it's great reading. But I'm going to talk about one other thing too. I'm going to show you where a blatant lie is said by Sammy, and it has to do with the murder of Louis de Bono. Now, Louis de Bono was a soldier in the Gambino family that they said that refused to come in, so John Gotti ordered his death. Once again, guess who took over his businesses when he got killed? And just so you know, this is Louis de Bono right here. Sammy Gravano took over his businesses. He was killed in the garage of the World Trade Center. But let's go over this. I'm going to read something in this to you, just so you get an idea about Louis de Bono. And this is Sammy talking at the 302. Okay, so we're going to get down. Let's see. I'm going to turn it to the next page. Okay, so listen. Gravano was told by John Gamaro that de Bono began working in the World Trade Center. Joe Madonna also told Gravano about this and gave Gravano Louis de Bono's business card. Gravano gave de Bono's business card to John Gotti. So basically, he's bringing the business card. He's found out where de Bono is. So they're going to send some killers over there. And here's what he told the FBI people. And here's another lie he's caught in. Borriello told Gravano, that Borriello, Carneglia, and a guy named Tony Vinchulo were going to do the de Bono murder. After the de Bono was killed, Borriello told him that Vinchulo drove the car while Carneglia and Borriello actually approached de Bono and shot him. Okay, so he's saying this Vinchulo guy was the driver. Several years later, somebody testified that was the driver. And it wasn't, let me show you a picture of the guy to test. So basically, a guy named Kevin McMahon, he's an informant now. But he came out and he admitted that he was a driver when he was killed. Bobby Borriello, and as you see, Kevin McMahon's right here with John Caniglia. And he said those guys are basically the two shooters. Kevin McMahon came out and confirmed this. And he is a rat now, just like Sammy. And he's short, just like Sammy, too. But the fact of the matter is, he did come out and say that Sammy was lying on his 302. And if you go through this, there's so many other parts where he's lying on his 302. Okay. And so, you're going to have people say, oh, Lee, you're hard on him. You're hard on him. You're always going after him. Instead of complaining and moaning and groaning that I'm going after him, do yourselves a favor. Go read his 302's. They're right there for you. You'll be shocked. They're very entertaining. It talks about all the murders, several murders, not even murders that he did, murders that he knew about. I'll give you an example of some of the things that he talks about on this. Give me 1 minute. Let me get this picture out of here. Okay, so he talks about bid rigging. Here's his 302's, the steel business. He does the 302 on the construction business. Frankie Fiala, he talks about his killing. He talks about the killing of Roy DeMeo, Jamie Heidel. He talks about Tony Rotrapino's killing, Joe Colucci. Let's see, Thomas DeBreezy. He talks about the Paul Castellano killing with Thomas Bellotti. He talks about how they dispose of corpses and how they dispose of guns. I'll give you an example. Let's go to his disposal of corpses. Do you remember how he said that he wanted to go help Frankie Licasio get out of prison? He testified so much stuff against Licasio that there's no way he could have got him out. Here's one thing that he said. This is in one of Sammy's 302's. Okay. On November 22nd, 1991, cooperating witness Sammy Gravano advised that in addition to disposing of the body of Robert DiBernardo, Gravano was told by John Gotti that Frank Licasio may have disposed of additional bodies. Now, we don't know if John Gotti told him that. Sammy's saying that. Licasio would have been available for the assistance of his son Salvatore, also known as AKA Tori, associates Zeph Mustafa, Peter Mustafa, and Richard Martino, AKA Richie. All were capable of doing this type of work since Frank Licasio has a backhoe and other equipment on his farm in upstate New York. A body could be buried in the woods located near Licasio's farm. So basically what he's saying is he's basically saying that Licasio was kind of the guy that they went to when they wanted to dispose of a body. And so he comes out on the show and says, I want to help my friend get out of jail. He's sick. He's dying. And of course it got rejected because it wasn't just one thing. It was several things that Sammy said about Frankie Licasio. Several things. So once again, Sammy's full of it. And it's not hard to find the stuff and debunk the stuff of Sammy Gravano's. It really isn't hard at all. You just got to look for it. You got to be willing to read. I was going to come out here today and read other stuff, but there's so much stuff here that people don't want to hear me reading. But I want you. So let's briefly go over what I said. Here's a guy that's friends with Lee Melito, and he's friends with Robert DiBernardo. He watched them both get shot in the head. He knew their bodies were disposed. Both their bodies disappeared forever. And the worst thing is, out of everything, even though their bodies disappeared forever, the children came and the wife came and crying in both cases that, oh, my father's not home. or my husband's not home. And Sammy directly looked right at him and lied to them and said, I don't know where they are. And he knew exactly where they are because he's seen them both get shot in the head. Now, if you think that that's a normal thing for a man to watch a man get shot in the head and be on here all these years later talking about it, glorifying it, and that's what Sammy does. He glorifies everything. And these are brutal murders that he watched. These are his friends. These weren't his enemies, people. These were his friends. And he took over both their businesses. So I'm going to tell you, go to the Smoking Gun, read about this stuff. And it will give you a different opinion on who Sammy Gravano is. Sammy Gravano lately wants to be called the king of the internet or whatever, or some ridiculous saying that he wants to be known as. So he wants to go from being a brutal killer, someone that watches his friends die right in front of his eyes, someone that watches the body on the ground. He knows how they're disposed of. He knows that they disappear forever. And he doesn't even tell the family who he's friends with. And we can get into his brother-in-law. That's a whole nother story. So you guys are out here glorifying this man. I don't know what you're thinking. There's nothing to glorify about this man. People say, oh, I love his stories. First of all, a lot of his stories are half-baked or half-fake because that's who he is. So people, go to this site, the Smoking Gun right here. And when it opens up, you'll see all that blue, right? All that, those are all Genovese family hierarchy, Colombo family hierarchy. He gives away everybody here. Gravano on the mob sit down, he talks about loan sharking. He even talks about the murder of Bobby Borriello. And he didn't get that right, because years later we found out that the two cops set him up. He talks about John Gotti Jr.'s wedding in here. He talks about, let's see what else. Gravano worried about MIA Gotti. So I don't even know what that is. I didn't read about that. Gambino family solidarity meetings he talks about. Gravano on Gambino loan sharking. Gravano on assorted mob business. Gravano on New England operations. Gravano on Florida operations. Gravano on an FBI mole, on the cardin industry. I mean, he told them everything. He was so valuable to them. So when we talk about rats, this is the king rat, people. He went deep into this. And, okay, so he's a rat. Okay, so he decided to give people up. Okay. But watched your friends get shot in the head. You watched them. People know, you'll hear stories, they shot their friend in the head, they were friends and they killed him. It's usually your friend killing you. But disposing of the bodies for them never to be found again by their families that you're friends with. Sure, this has happened plenty of times in the mob, but plenty of times they don't have nobody on here like Sammy that's turning these stories around and glorifying them. The man's pushing 80 and he's glorifying it. It's this crap. Okay, so once again, people, go to that. Hey, listen, if you like this video, hit a like. I'd really appreciate. It's very important that you hit the like. If you want to donate something to it, go underneath, hit the heart, donate, or my Cash App will be under there. Donate to that. If you're not, that's fine too. I hope this helped you out with some more information. I'm going to be doing this more in depth on his 302's. I'm going to take them apart, compare them to his videos and stuff, and show you exactly where he lied on them, because there's quite a few of them. So people, take care. I hope you like this video. Talk to you soon.